Hello and welcome back to another episode of Weirdo Dhang se baat kar. And we are on the fifth episode. And thank you so much because it takes a lot of time and energy to just do all of this. So it really means a lot. Other than that, अगर आपने इससे पहले के एपिसोड्स नहीं देखे, वही क्या कर रहे हो, जाओ जाके देखो. चैनल पे 4 एपिसोड्स ऑलरेडी अप है. कुछ भी अच्छा लग रहा है लाइक करो, कमेंट करो, शेयर करो, स्पेशली सब्सक्राइब करो. सब्सक्राइब क्यों करो? क्योंकि हर थर्सडे 6 बजे एक नया एपिसोड मैं डाल दूंगा. देयर गोना बी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग डाइवर्स things and guests on the podcast, so stay tuned. Other than that, on the podcast on fifth episode we have a counseling psychologist and a therapist, Prachi Bhatia. She has the formal education in the similar field. And without any further ado, I'd just like to jump into the podcast because this topic has always been very intriguing to me. Human psychology, how people's brain work, how people perceive things, trauma, this, that, and everything. So, yeah, the episode with Prachi Bhatia starts in 3, 2, 1. Hello. Welcome to the
Hello.
podcast.
Thank you.
So, how's your day going?
It's going good. It was a mad morning because of the Coldplay tickets, but yeah, it's going good.
Okay.
You tell me.
You're trying to going to like Coldplay concert.
We are trying our best, but let's see what happens. Depends on the fate.
Not trying for Diljit.
I already attended Diljit, so I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
where?
In Mumbai.
That's nice.
Yes.
So
How's your day going?
my day is going pretty normal, post editing work and everything. So yeah, just that.
Yes.
So like as I know you are like a therapist,
Yes.
but in terms of like proper detail, if you want to give like a introduction to yourself, because I'm not that educated in that terms. So if you want to give that, please go ahead.
Sure. So, therapist, yes, is a term that you can use to describe the work that I do. But I'm also a counseling psychologist. What that means is that there are a lot of different fields in psychology as well. Like there is clinical psychology, there's sports psychology, there's counseling psychology, there's forensic psychology. And you can do your masters or you can pursue your specifications in any field that you prefer. So I did my masters in counseling psychology.
Okay.
And I have been practicing that now. It usually involves adjustment issues, stress management, and relationship issues, family issues. All of that comes under this counseling. There's another field parallel to this which is called clinical psychology, where it deals with all the disorders. Like you must have heard schizophrenia or even say depression. There's major depressive disorder. There are generalized anxiety disorders that are very specific, which need medications. And clinical psychologists work very hand in hand with psychiatrists. So they deal with disorders. As a counseling psychologist, I can counsel people with disorders, but again, it's like अब तुमको पेट में प्रॉब्लम हो रही है तो तुम किसी गैस्ट्रो के डॉक्टर के पास जाओगे ना, rather than not a heart
You go to the
physician.
specialist, yeah.
Exactly. So you go to a specialist. Similarly, I'm a specialized counseling psychologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like even though अभी काफी सारा 21st century है, people know about things, this, that. But कभी कभी I guess I don't know, like psychology, philosophy, mental health, and in सब के terms में like boundaries in terms of definition काफी blur हो जाती है.
Yeah.
Like some days for me mental health is just like chilling or like giving time to my own health or like doing exercise. Sometimes it is pretty much different, but like if you have to give a definition in terms of like this is what terminologically this means, what would that be?
Okay. Rather than terminologically, I would like to go in a very practical sense.
Okay.
So when we say health, right, we talk about the physical health. We're usually referring to physical health. आप किसी को भी सुनोगे तो अगर बोल रहे हैं मैं health का ध्यान रख रहा हूँ, so health will comprise of body health, right? However, health cannot exist without your mind as well, right? So now, our generation is very woke, I would say. We are aware as a generation. We understand that our mind is an important element of our everyday life. It involves in thinking, it's involved in judgment, in small decisions that you make, in remembering stuff, in picking out what you want, in judging a situation, in perception of what is happening around you. The mind is involved in everything in our everyday life. Just taking care of the health of that mind is mental health, as basic as it can get. When you need to understand that my health cannot just exist without me taking care of this, and not just the body, but also the mind, that's as simple as taking care of your mental health.
हाउ डज एक इंसान कैसे समझेगा कि आई एम नॉट डूइंग दिस और आई एम डूइंग दिस
Taking care of your health.
हाँ लाइक जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल as you grow up you learn new things.
Yes.
So when someone gets to a point of like okay ये चीज़ mental health है, so am I doing it पहले से unconsciously or subconsciously, or is it ingrained in me, or am I not doing it? How does a person differentiate?
Yeah, that's a nice question. Sometimes when you don't have the awareness, right, then you can come to a realization later कि oh यार ये तो मैं पहले से ही करती आ रही थी. For example, breathing exercises, right? We are told to do a lot of breathing for our body as well, and like yoga, pranayam, ये सब चीज़ें काफ़ी हमें बताई जाती हैं, which we were still more aware, and our older generations were also aware of it, so it has been passed on to us. तो ऐसा नेचुरली हो जाता है कि कुछ लोग शायद ब्रीदिंग एक्सरसाइजेस कर रहे हैं हमेशा से, right? But then they get that awareness, and then they realize, oh, it's not only good for my physical health, but it's also good for my mental health, because when I focus on my breathing, it allows me to pause, right? Allows me to just get my focus back in the present moment and stop the functioning for a while. ऐसा तो ना कंप्यूटर का सीपीयू गर्म हो जाता है अगर पूरे टाइम प्रोसेसिंग हो रही है तो, राइट? सिमिलरली ये गर्म हो जाता है जब पूरे टाइम इट्स एक्टिव एंड इट्स वर्किंग. फॉर अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल इट्स एक्टिव इवन व्हेन दे आर स्लीपिंग, राइट? या. सो it happens that you need to recognize certain things that you may be doing from the past or in the past, but unless and until you don't see how it can actually impact your mental health as well, they're just practices that you're doing. I think being aware and mindful of what you're doing and why you're doing it really helps with the process.
So like what are like some of the very common problems, or like in general very starter conversations of like I think this is the problem with me that you've been seeing pretty regularly?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very common thing I've noticed.
Right. I think a lot of people actually take that step, since there's still a lot of stigma, right? So the thing that really pushes them to come for that session and really opt for therapy is when it starts affecting their body. For a lot of
physically,
people,
you mean?
yeah.
Okay.
When they can actually see signs and symptoms in their physical body, when they've got it checked, they've taken medications, they've gotten everything done, but it's still there, right? Then they realize.
Is it like that kind of a thing where your mental thought is inducing a kind of a pain? Is
Yes.
it in the same realm of
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's called somatoform. Soma basically means body, right? So when the energies, or basically when the health of your mind is not good, and you've not been taking care of it, it starts translating into your body. It starts showing those symptoms, those effects into your body as well. So it's called somatoform, basically, where it starts to take a form in your physical body now.
Got it.
Because you've not processed it.
Yeah.
Right? So कहीं तो जाएगा. अब यहाँ भर गया है, वो गर्म हो चुका है सीपीयू, तो वो अब
कुछ तो रिएक्शन करेगा.
सॉफ्टवेयर में वो गड़बड़ करना स्टार्ट कर देगा, हार्डवेयर में गड़बड़ करना स्टार्ट कर देगा, राइट? दैट्स व्हाट हैपेंस. सो दैट इज यूजुअली अ स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट फॉर अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल कि यार I have pain in my neck, I have pain in my shoulders, or I have a lot of gut issues and I can't sleep, I have tried everything, it's not working out. So usually when they reach to a point कि यार मैंने सब कर लिया, अब मेरे को ये ट्राई करना है क्योंकि मैंने सब कर लिया, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, I'm still there. Now they're like, okay, let me give this a chance.
So let's just say I am someone who comes up to you.
Yeah.
What are, like, I'm sure, क्योंकि एक सिंपल मैथ इक्वेशन करने के 10 तरीके होते हैं, ये तो कॉम्प्लेक्स ह्यूमन है.
Of course.
So like how do you go about it, like in terms of your back end?
That's a very good question. Yes, each person is different. Each case is different. In fact, there has been a study which says that all of our brains are also very different. So, the way that a person is going to look at this situation, the next person is going to look at the same situation very differently. And because they have had different environments while they were growing up, they have a different genetic makeup. अगर वो लोग सेम सिचुएशन से भी गो थ्रू करें ना, फॉर एग्जाम्पल अ ब्रेकअप, लेट्स टेक अ वेरी बेसिक सिचुएशन जो सबके साथ होती है, लाइक अ ब्रेकअप. Different people would perceive that breakup also very differently, and the way that that breakup will have effects on them emotionally, mentally, physically, in all ways, how that breakup is affecting them is going to be very different. So the back end, like you said, works in a way where we usually, take about 2 to 3 sessions initially, which goes into case history, right? Where I am observing them, I am making a note of their body language, their eye contact, their facial expressions, the words that they're saying, what is it that the journey of their life basically, what is it that they've lived, what are some of the things that they may repeat a lot while they're saying. These are certain cues. Basically understanding their thinking patterns and their behavioral patterns first. Right? Even though I know that इसकी ये problem जो वो लेकर आया है breakup, it's very important for me to understand all of these factors first. So usually 3 to 4 sessions go about in just understanding the person. Tell me this one thing, how old are you?
I'm 25.
25, right? So 25 years of your life you've lived intensely, right? With every minute counting. Now you come to therapy and you don't give me even 24 hours and you expect something to come. Is it going to come? Are you
And
going
the correct thing I want, like कि
Yeah.
exact dot solution चाहिए
yeah,
मेरे को.
कि मुझे ठीक होना है बस. So 20
Injection लगा दो.
Yeah, exactly. 24 years, you need to give this process at least 24 hours, one day. One day, right? 24 sessions. One session usually goes about for 50 minutes. 50 minutes to 1 hour. And we meet once a week, usually. If I feel that this person needs more sessions, more frequency initially, then we meet twice a week and then we eventually cut it down. Sometimes it reaches to a point where it's now once in 15 days. And then eventually you conclude therapy. So then it comes down to one session in a month. And then eventually, you stop reducing the number of sessions.
According to
Yeah.
the
The
response and
requirement.
everything.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, is it like a spring effect? Like things get compiled. So, ठीक है, अभी मेरे पास problem है. अभी मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता हूँ other than coming to you and like maybe finding questions.
Yeah.
If I was not to be at this position or at this moment, if I could go back in time, would there be some practices that would not lead up to this kind of a chaos? Maybe a little less of a chaos, or like, if I'm making sense.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
What could be like little bit small activities that, a 15-year-old or a 10-year-old who's just like starting to live a life just can include? What could that be?
okay, I'll get to that. First of all, I'd like to just mention that reaching to a point where you need to seek help does not mean that you have reached the most chaotic state now. Okay. A lot of times, people recognize that there is something that I am not able to deal with alone, and it would be nice to just have someone to assist me, to guide me better here, and just support me through this. just hold my hand and support me through this. So it does not always have to reach to the most chaotic point to take therapy. Right? And I do have clients who recognize it, like they know that, okay, this is about to get worse for me now and I should seek help. And they start there. So, like I keep saying, therapy is not a treatment. It's not a cure to something. In fact, if recognized wisely, you can start it at a point where it starts becoming more like a vaccination, more like a prevention, rather than a cure. Right? For such practices, like you said, what a 14, 15-year-old can do, right? Coming to that point, I think मेरे हिसाब से तो हर स्कूल में psychology should be a subject. I think everyone should study psychology. It's very important to know and understand your own self. Like, how is it that your brain functions? How is it that your mind functions? What are some of the ways in which you can think? What is human behavior about? लोग ये करते हैं तो क्यों करते हैं? कहाँ से आता है? बहुत सारे अलग अलग aspects होते हो जो आप study करते हो, right? So, of course, education is one thing that can be incorporated, but that's on a like a national level or maybe like
वो अपन नहीं control कर पाएंगे.
कर सकते control. But yes, you can start reading a bit about psychology, right? Bringing that awareness to yourself. Asking yourself a lot of questions helps. For example, you're in a situation where, say, you got into a fight with a friend and तुमने खाना नहीं खाया रात का. So, ठीक है, ऐसा हो जाता है कि भूख नहीं लग रही तो नहीं खाया. It's very natural. However, understand, if आज भूख नहीं लग रही है या क्योंकि मेरी लड़ाई हुई इसलिए मैं खा नहीं रही हूँ या खा नहीं रहा हूँ. Right? Understanding that whatever way I am behaving, is it coming from somewhere? Is it stemming from somewhere? Or is it just because? Right? When you start questioning all of these things, you get a lot of awareness about why you probably might behave in a certain way or why you might perceive a situation a certain way. Once identified, then you can probably know that this is where I have to work on myself. Now, how can you work on yourself?
Yeah, like if
Having
I found a stem, how do I trace it that it is true that what I'm thinking?
Yeah. Let's get back to certain practices that they can do. You know, having a fixed schedule of sleeping and waking up really helps a lot.
Okay.
Not using any screen before you go to sleep. At least, so your subconscious mind is the most active 15 minutes before you go to sleep and 15 minutes after you wake up. Right? So whatever you feed it, it goes on mostly throughout the day or maybe say 2 days. Just for example, if I wake up today and I play a song on my phone. Now, मेरे साथ बहुत बार होता है कि मैंने वो गाना चलाया और वो कितनी बार मैं अगले दिन तक भी मैं वही गाना गा रही हूँ. Right?
The first song of the day is the song of the whole day.
Song of the whole day, sometimes song of the whole week.
You have to play different songs in order to get that shit out.
Get that, yes, out of your mind. That's how powerful it is. So your subconscious is very active when you wake up and when you go to sleep. That's why they say that when you need to journal, do it right before bed, or when you need to, do these affirmations. You need to do these affirmations सुबह उठ के या सोने से पहले. And that's what most people are doing. This is what most people are doing. And what this does is that it stimulates your brain to such a massive level where every 3 seconds, now because of Reels, congratulations to that, every 3 seconds, there is a stimulation happening. There is a change in emotion. How will this be addressed? 1 second I'm laughing, then 1 second there is something very serious happening, then 1 second I'm like, oh, this is so wholesome, then 1 second I'm like, oh, what is happening? And then I'm dancing, and then it's constantly changing, right?
Also, your emotions are in your control. If you don't wanna see that, you can just like give me something new.
Yeah.
How does that like
So
How does that-
not doing that helps.
How does that reflect? Like, let's talk about the bad habit. How does that reflect? Like, what are the basic things that are gonna go wrong if you are just like, utte say the first thing you are doing is on a screen. Before bed, you are just watching some
Yeah.
rubbish shit.
Inattentiveness, lack of focus. आप बहुत ज़्यादा किसी चीज़ पे बहुत ज़्यादा देर तक कॉन्सेंट्रेट नहीं कर पाओगे बिकॉज आपको एक्टिव स्टिमुलेशन की इतनी आदत हो गई है कि फोकस करना किसी चीज़ पे बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. एक जगह पे बैठना मुश्किल हो जाता है, राइट? बिकॉज यू लाइक ओ व्हाट नेक्स्ट व्हाट नेक्स्ट व्हाट नेक्स्ट व्हाट नेक्स्ट.
You're looking for the next
You're looking for
dopamine
the
hit.
next thing. Yes,
Yeah.
you're looking for the next thing. You're looking for the next task. You're looking for the next conversation. You're looking for something else to do. So there is this inactivity, right? There's a lot of hyperactivity or inactivity altogether, right? या तो तुम कुछ भी नहीं करोगे या तो तुम्हें बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ करना है,
Okay.
right?
Like very polar ends
Polar
of it.
ends can happen. Yeah, like I said, focus नहीं होगा. तो if I pick on a task, I would just get bored of it and leave it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That happens a lot. Like I said, the mind will not be at rest. तो उससे क्या होगा? Constant release of stress hormone also happens because I'm fixated to something now. For example, I saw this reel. Now this has really affected me. My mind is fixated on that reel. कि यार ये बहुत गलत हुआ. जैसे I read about an accident, for example, and I feel very sad about it. Now, at that point of time, fear got evoked. Fear was an emotion that played a role because I saw that. Maybe sadness also came up. And as a response, my stress hormone got released. Now, that stress hormone cycle for a lot of people, especially the youth, it starts becoming such a constant thing. Because now what my mind is doing, now that I'm in that zone, next few things that I see or next few conversations that I have are going to be around that thing.
Or at least it will have an essence of it. Even if you're talking about work with a colleague, it will have an
Yes.
essence of it.
Yes.
I get it, yeah.
And what happens is people don't process those emotions.
Okay.
So it's somewhere getting stored. Coming back to the spring effect that you said, it's somewhere getting stored inside of you. Now what happens as a spring, when you keep pressing it, 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 it reaches to a point where there is no space anymore. And then you take this hand off and it will just bounce back like anything.
Mhm.
That's what happens to a lot of people. Bursts out. Rage. बहुत छोटी छोटी बातों पे इरिटेशन हो जाता है. ये सब सिम्टम्स है सारी चीज़ों के. तो आपने कहा ना, what are the fallbacks? These are all the fallbacks. We're not giving it rest. It is constantly evoking emotions and those emotions are not being processed. They are getting stored.
So, like, again, coming back to me, coming up to you as a person, like, what are the, like, different ways, I don't know, like, how, like, are there, like, methods of these things?
Yes.
Like, what kind of methods do you practice, or like,
Right.
because I have no knowledge about this, so
Mhm.
please.
That's true, yes. See, the most common one and the oldest one is called CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy.
Okay.
Cognitive means the part of your mind that deals with thinking, processing, judgment, all the parts that involve the thinking part, right? Memory bhi ho gaya isme. Now, cognitively, your thoughts are somewhat that play a big role, right? And behavior is behavior, your action. In CBT, what we try to do is we try to understand what are some of the thought patterns this person has, which is probably leading them to feel a certain way, behave in a certain way that is malfunctioning for them, right? For example, there are a lot of cognitive distortions or errors in thinking that I've been talking about in my page as well.
Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah. So, one of the errors in thinking can be looked at as, say, personalization. Now, what does that mean is, बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि कुछ लोग ना ऐसे हो जाते हैं कि यार हर चीज़ मेरे साथ ही क्यों होती है, you know, मैं इतना तो करती हूँ, मैं सब कुछ तो सही करती हूँ, लेकिन फिर भी मेरे साथ ही होता है. मैं कहीं पे भी जाती हूँ तो वो मुझे ही बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारी गलती है, कि तुमने ये सही नहीं किया. या मुझे हर बार लगता है कि यार उसने किया तो ये मुझे क्यों सुना रही है, मुझे क्यों बोल रही है. समटाइम्स तुम्हें कोई कुछ नहीं बोल रहा है, राइट? वो शायद सिर्फ खुद को एक्सप्रेस कर रहा है. Not everything is directed towards you. Say for example, I say something here. Not everything will be like, oh, Sameer ने ऐसा किया, समीर की वजह से ऐसा हुआ. Right? Sometimes I'm just expressing myself. I just feel this way. What people tend to do is they take it personally. Oh, is she feeling this way because of me? मैंने क्या किया यार कि ये मेरे को वैसे सुना रही है.
And then you go in a loophole of a thought like
Yes.
why, what, this, that.
Yes. Then you start questioning yourself. There is self-doubt. And this is just one example. There are a lot of other distortions that people can have. A lot of different errors in thinking. Like wishful thinking. Okay. Sometimes people think that ये ऐसे ही होना चाहिए. ये अगर मैं जा रही हूँ तो ये चीज़ ऐसे ही turn out होनी चाहिए.
Oh, okay, yeah.
है ना?
Events turning out in a certain way.
Yes.
Okay.
Wishful thinking. That I see, even if you say ना कि I wish ऐसा हो तो बहुत अच्छा होगा, नहीं भी हुआ तो ठीक है. This is still rational. What people can do in wishful thinking is नहीं ऐसा ही होना चाहिए. या ऐसे थोड़ी होता है. ये अगर इस तरीके से होगा तो ही सब ठीक है. नहीं तो फिर नहीं चाहिए. जैसे relationships it can come up wishful thinking कि you know this is how my partner should behave. If he or she doesn't behave like this then नहीं होगा. You know. वो तो मुझे समझ ही नहीं रहा है. मैंने तो सोचा था कि मेरा पार्टनर ऐसा होगा.
But he's like this.
But he's a little different.
And I want him to be like
To
this.
be like that.
Or
Because,
them to be like this.
because I thought of it. Because it was my wishful thinking that जब मेरा पार्टनर आएगा तो वो तो ऐसा होगा. But reality is something else. And वो बहुत अच्छा होगा शायद. वो पार्टनर बहुत अच्छा होगा. वो बहुत करता होगा तुम्हारे लिए in a lot of ways. You know, love languages, if you know, there are a lot of love languages. He may have a very different love language. But
Yeah.
you are not able to see it and then you're in that loop of like, oh, but he's not this. Right? All of these things then cause your behavior to change and then causes these issues in your life where you may not be satisfied with the relationship, you may not be happy with the job. Now this can come in context with offices also, bosses also, you know, all or none thinking.
Is there according to you, whatever you feel is okay telling, please do. Security reasons, privacy reasons की वजह से you can
Yeah.
stay shut. Corporate wala, like, have you faced a lot of problems regarding like people facing like a lot of pressure or maybe like a lot of hassle that they are going through back and forth in the
I have.
corporate?
I
Like,
have.
let's go. 2 episodes simultaneously, lights out. Anyways, sorry.
But is this going to affect?
Yeah, no, it's not gonna affect.
Okay. Yes. So interesting you brought that up. I actually have an experience working in a corporate setting for 2 years. So I was working with a project where there were like 2,000 employees. They were working with, I can't say the name because of confidentiality.
Sure.
Yeah, but these people were content moderators. Okay, so what they were doing was at the data, the cloud, right? It's huge. And there is no restriction on what you can upload and what you cannot upload. You can just put anything you
You can
want.
put files up, yeah.
Yeah, you can put anything. You make a profile. तुमको जो upload करना है तुम कर सकते हो. But there is this team sitting behind at the back end, going through all that data and filtering it out. Sometimes there is a lot of nudity. There is a lot of hate speech. There is a lot of bloodshed involved or animal cruelty involved. And we might not come across all of those videos in a great capacity because there are people sitting and filtering that out. They are removing it. Sometimes you might see those those क्या बोलते हैं यार उसको एक prompts आते हैं ना कि this is violent content and
Yes,
it's blurred.
sensitive.
Yeah, sensitive content, and then
Yes.
you're like, see why, and then you have to be like, okay, I'm okay with it, and then you can go forward and see it. So ये Instagram in itself cannot do that. They have people actually sitting and making that gesture for you. Say, for example, they see a video and then they do it. Now imagine someone who's doing this job, sitting at the desk, and 8 hours, okay, constantly, they're looking at this stuff. They're looking at random shit. They're looking at people doing stupid things, lot of nudity, lot of animal cruelty, lot of, say, dangerous stuff happening.
I mean, internet is pretty wild.
It is pretty wild. And right, we don't see it because हम तक वो आता ही नहीं है यार. But हम तक नहीं आ रहा है, लेकिन एक section of the society है जिसके पास जा रहा है वो. Right? Now,
Like, I guess the things that are not meant to be out, उसमें से सिर्फ 1/4% जो है वो सेंसिटिविटी के नाम पे जाता है, और जो 3/4 है वो दिखता ही नहीं है.
yes.
Which is what I guess they are seeing.
Yes. Yes. So, imagine the kind of impact their mental health would have. Being constantly exposed to that for 8 hours in a day.
I feel sad for them.
Yeah. So, I was a therapist for these people. And it was so heavy. Like, I am deviating a little from the normative corporate stress, like the work stress that people have is usually around burnout or missing deadlines, or the boss is putting pressures. वो है कि ये भी task आ रहा है, वो भी task आ रहा है. All of that is there. Not dismissing that does not exist. But I'm coming from my experience, right? And these people, they start numbing themselves. They numb their emotions completely.
How? Like,
Because if I'm seeing this and if I keep getting affected by it, right, then I'm going to just feel sad throughout the day, or just feel disgust throughout the day. If I'm not seeing animal cruelty or like say murders or like suicides or say bloodshed, चल अगर मैं वो भी नहीं देख रही हूँ, I'm still seeing nudity or like stupid shit people are doing, and that can evoke an emotion known as disgust, right? If I don't separate myself from that experience, I'm going to be in constant disgust throughout the day, or I'm going to be in constant fear, or I'm going to be in constant sadness throughout the day. So what these people do is they start numbing themselves down, and they get so normalized. Like if they see two cars crashing, I would probably be like अगर मैं देखूँ ना, I would be like, क्या हो गया? For them, it's so normal. They're like, हाँ चल next. Now how this pans out in their personal life is that they are not able to experience other emotions.
okay.
They numb themselves down. Then that starts affecting their personal life, their professional life, because there is less of a balance there. Right? They are so exhausted. Their emotional energy at the end of the day is so exhausted. They can't give time to their homes. And a lot of people are married. They have kids. So they are not able to build those healthy relationships with people at home. They are not able to empathize.
There is a general problem of like a job, and then on top of it, the numbness.
Yes.
So that obviously makes it complicated.
It does. Now, if we keep the content moderators aside and if we go to the normal corporate sector of how, not getting into this complexity of the data, but if we just see people who are working, say, in the finance sector or say HR or any other sector in a job, there also what starts happening is that since there is a lot of pressure, there is a constant stress cycle going on, right? The cortisol is the stress hormone that keeps releasing, and then it's so constant that you are in this constant cycle without even realizing that I have been stressed and I am under constant stress. Now, because the stress is always there, it drains you of energy. Drains you of physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy, all kinds of energies. You don't get time for yourself. You don't get time for the people around you. All you're doing is investing yourself completely in the tasks that you're doing. Your mind gets stuck with the salary also, where you know कि अच्छा महीने के इस एंड में मेरी सैलरी आएगी, हाँ फिर मैं खुश हो सकती हूँ. वो डिपेंडेंसी भी फॉर्म होने लगती है.
How can one who is stuck in a cycle say, I am stuck in a cycle of this thing? How does one switch out or maybe snap out of it? Like, or like not snap out of it, but at least
Exactly.
gain 1% of like, okay, I may be not thinking in the right direction.
Yeah.
I should be like, what are the basic things that like they can use to just snap out of it a little bit, like just take
You
a step
can't
back.
snap out of anything, okay? It's all a constant, gradual process. You cannot snap out of anything, first of all. Secondly, yes, maintaining a regular wellness routine for yourself is very important.
If you were to give someone a basic routine,
Hmm.
like this is what a prototype routine could look like, what would that be?
Like I said, having a fixed time to sleep, a fixed time to wake up, taking care of your meals, right? A lot of times, what can happen with people in corporate settings is they skip out on meals. You have to give your body that nutrition. You have to give your mind that nutrition, right? So not skipping out on meals. Have a proper breakfast. Uh, I see people surviving literally on coffee all day, right? They will have 3 to 4 cups of coffee. Caffeine adds a lot to this stress cycle again, right? So cutting down on caffeine a little bit helps. Sticking to that routine is very important. Now, exercise regularly, right? Take some time to exercise. Do anything. Move your body. क्या होता है with the job? We can also just sit at one place. Just constantly sit at one place. Do your task. Maybe take a small break for like चाय पीने चले गए या people like to take smoke breaks. Whatever those breaks, बस उसी time पे they are going. And even with coffee and smoke, again, what's happening is the caffeine or the nicotine is again hitting that cycle. So recognizing if you need to cut down on this, right? Say कुछ लोगों की तो चलो ये practice नहीं है. They don't indulge in all of this. How can they benefit? Now, take micro breaks in between, right? For example, I finished a task. अभी मेरे पास break time नहीं है. I don't even have time for lunch. Okay, micro break. Take that micro break for 2 minutes. Take deep breaths. Right? Try to get yourself back to the present moment. There are a lot of grounding activities that you can do, right? Where if you feel कि यार बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है, I cannot even process anything right now. Start looking at the environment around you. Sometimes we're so invested in the screen, we just feel like I don't know what's happening with me. At that point, just look around you. Sense your environment, perceive. Name 5 things that you can see, touch 4 things around you. Get yourself back to the moment. See what you can smell. Engage all your senses. Get yourself back to the present. Right? That helps breaking that cycle. So, having these practices for yourself on an everyday basis really helps. Sleeping on, like I said, on the same time. Not looking at the screen before you go to bed. Not looking at the screen right after you wake up. Have some time for yourself. Engage in breathing. Breathe properly. People have forgotten how to breathe. It's the
It
most
is
basic.
so interesting that all of the things that you are saying, they fall under a blur umbrella. Like they do make a lot of difference, but they also seem like they don't. Sitting in silence, just taking time out for your own self, just like zooming out, looking at the environment, looking at nature, sounds very normal to just neglect, but is also very important simultaneously to.
It is. It is great observation actually. Mental health is really about these little things. People feel कि बहुत बड़ा task है खुद की mental health का ध्यान देना और it's such a I don't have time for my mental health. Oh, you don't need time. You don't need
Basic
time.
activities.
Yeah, just be. Sometimes just being is you taking care of your mental health. Just being and doing nothing.
Uh, I don't know, like, I still feel like there are some kind of like a gap, like, between. I read this book called I Am Okay, You Are Okay. and the first chapter, or maybe the reference, it said that the major gap, I guess, is that people don't understand it. Like, if you were to understand basic psychology or anything, the things are so complicated for a layman to understand
Yeah,
that things get lost in the conversation.
it's true.
So, like right now in the present day, present moment, what do you think that these are the translations that are still missing, that are very essential, or maybe something that we do, or something that people don't know that this is happening, or maybe a misconception that there is this gap that you would like to fill between the people and what you do?
Interesting. I think a lot of times it can seem like जैसे कि आपने कहा कि ये छोटी चीज़ें तो ऐसे ही हो गया कि बचपन में जैसे पेरेंट्स कहते थे टाइम से सो टाइम से उठ एक्सरसाइज कर
सुबह उठ कर जॉगिंग जा
जॉगिंग जा अच्छा खाना खा है ना इट कैन सीम लाइक ये तो पुश्तों से आ रहा है ये तो करो इसमें मेंटल हेल्थ कहाँ से आ गई राइट to fill that gap, right? To understand that not just doing these practices for the sake of doing it will help. I think awareness about why you're doing them, A. B. How is it that it's. So these things, they help in accelerating the process of you working on your mental health. Now, for example, someone who's come for therapy, we cannot exist without understanding the thoughts first. How you think about a certain situation or a certain person or a certain event. What is your attitude behind it? What is your belief system? What are your values?
सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट यू. आपने बोला कि स्टार्टिंग के few 2 or 3 days you are judging on that kind of a
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
What is the person talking about? Like, as you said, the way they are talking, you judge on the facial expressions, the repetitions. What are they talking about? Is it like a general thing they're talking about, or you do have some specific questions, or
Yeah,
like
we do
what
have
is
some
it?
specific questions as well. But usually people come up इतना भरे हुए आते हैं ना अंदर से कि वो आके बोलते ही हैं राइट एंड दे हैव अ लॉट टू से सो ओके यूजुअली they talk about their life, their life when it comes to their personal life or their professional life. Mixture of both, yes, but जैसे अगर कोई अपने रिलेशनशिप में बहुत परेशान है, say marriage, okay, and this person comes, they will talk about everything that's going on with them in that marriage. It can be very basic, like मैं उठी मेरी सास ने मुझे ये बोला, फिर उसके बाद ये हुआ, फिर मैंने ये बोला. अच्छा, अब इसमें ना कई बार कहानियां भी बहुत आती हैं कि फिर ये जैसे अगर
How you perceive the incident that took place.
yes. So what happens is for us वो कहानियाँ इतनी important नहीं है. Like मुझे नहीं फर्क पड़ता कि उसने तेरे को exactly क्या reply करा text पे, फिर तूने ये reply करा. No, for us what is important is what were the ways in which you thought about that situation. जैसे तूने ये बोला, उसने ये बोला, फिर तूने ये बोला, फिर उसने ये बोला, बट अल्टीमेटली तुझे लगा कैसा उसके बाद, या तूने ये क्या बिलीफ बना लिया कि वो तो है ही ऐसी, ये वो तो करती है ऐसा. उसके बाद शायद तुम्हारी जो नेक्स्ट चैट हुई है उसमें वो ऐसी नहीं है, बट बिकॉज तुमने सोच लिया है कि वो ऐसी है.
That emotion is leaking over. Okay.
Not necessarily an emotion, but a lot of times your belief system, right? I can form a very core belief about a person कि वो तो ऐसे ही करता है, वो तो ऐसे ही करती है, या वो तो ऐसा ही है, वो तो ऐसी ही है. In reality, they may not be like that. But because my belief system has been formed in such a way that I now look at them that way. It's like wearing a chashma which has a pink frame, okay? Now everything you see is pink. But in reality, it's just your chashma. If you take it out, you will see the different colors as well that exist.
And you can put on a different color
A
if you
different
don't
color
like
when
it.
you want. If you don't like this, take it out. Put on a different color. Right? So people talk about anything and everything कि ये हुआ फिर मुझे ऐसा लगा, अच्छा मुझे ये भी लगता है, मुझे वो भी लगता है. तो ये जो आपको लगता है ना, जो आपको लगता रहता है दिन भर में, हम वो डिस्कस करते हैं. और क्यों लग रहा है, कहाँ से आ रही है वो सोच, कैसे बदली जाए, कैसे अफेक्ट कर रही है, क्या हमारे हाथ में है जिस चीज़ के बारे में हमें अफेक्ट हो रहा है, क्या हम कुछ कर सकते हैं उस चीज़ के बारे में, नहीं कर सकते हैं तो हम क्या कर सकते हैं ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी.
I could be completely wrong. I guess you have to walk around a lot of eggshells.
Yes.
Because like first of all, you are not just discovering like what the problem is.
Yes.
You're also stepping into a territory of a human you don't know. Then uske perspective ki kahani. So like how are you approaching these things other than like you have to help them or whatever? Like how are you like say technically how are you mapping these things? Like
That's where
okay, if I say this could be a bit like problematic thing if I say this.
Of course. That's where our training comes in. People who are good psychologists, I'd like to think of myself as a good psychologist, we get trained a lot, right? We would undergo a lot of internships, we would undergo supervision, right? So once we begin therapy, there is a lot of supervision that needs to be done. I cannot just start कि वो masters खत्म हुआ अब तो मैंने clients लेना start कर दिया. A lot of people do that. A lot of people do it without even having a proper degree. ठीक है, that's a different topic. But yes, we undergo hours and hours of training where in our education only we are taught how to fix our lens, right? What is the lens through which we see? Empathy is very, very important in our profession. And we get trained to do that, right? We trained not to judge a situation. If you are blessed with good teachers, you create a very good foundation where you then start looking at things from that lens, right? You start perceiving things from a non-judgmental space. You start empathizing. You start looking for reasons for why a certain person behaved in a certain way. When you study, in that education, in the formal education that we get, we, through theories, understand that, okay, if a certain person has these characteristics, they stem from, say, this thing that happened in their childhood, probably, or because they had this attachment style, so they think of it this way. So we get a lot of formal training and education, so we get a lens, like I said, from which we look at. There are a lot of structures, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया केस हिस्ट्री करते हैं, राइट? केस हिस्ट्री का अपना एक स्ट्रक्चर है where we ask about their family type, we ask about if it's a nuclear family, joint family, how many people are there in the family, we ask about their professional life, we ask about their school, how is the school life, we discuss the college life, we ask about their emotional support in life, if they have friends, if they talk to those friends, if they share their life with their friends, how is their relationship with their family, is there any physical health issue that they're facing. In girls, with girls, we understand their menstrual cycle. We understand if work exists, if they are working, how is it their work environment looks like. We also understand the onset of their concerns. For example, if someone comes in with sleep disturbances and mood disturbances, so we try to understand what was the onset, कब से start हुआ, कब से हो रहा है ये. ऐसे तो है नहीं कि तुम्हें शायद बचपन से ही हो रहा है, नहीं, एक टाइमलाइन समझते हैं कि कितने मंथ्स हो गए या कितने ईयर्स हो गए तब से ये हो रहा है. What is the frequency? See, for example, if someone says, I feel anxious, we're going to discover into how frequent is this anxiety coming in? In what situations does this anxiety come in? Right? Then you understand the duration, कि कितने टाइम से ये आपकी लाइफ में इंटरफियर कर रहा है. Right? Then what are some of the concerns that they come up with, right? You describe them in full detail, you understand them in full detail. You also look at, now when I say this is the case history, right, इसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें majorly cover हो जाती हैं. There is another mental status examination that we do that covers the posture, the body language. For example, it can be very basic. Ab jaise, there are clients who would sit like this. Now, what is this showing you?
They are not comfortable.
Discomfort, right? Or sometimes one client is going to be sitting like this.
They're too conscious or maybe too
Yeah.
aware of something.
Yeah. Then some people they'll come sit. They'll sit like this and they'll be like, हाँ तो ये चल रहा है फिर ऐसा ऐसा था. These are all signs. We are trained to read the body language as well. This shows up a lot about the person as well, right? And this can give us a window into maybe there is more. शायद ये अभी बता नहीं रहा है खुल के या ये अभी खुला नहीं है, right? Sometimes people don't maintain eye contact. They would not look at you.
What does that gives you like?
That can indicate that maybe they're thinking something else, but they are saying something else, or you know something is going in their mind, but वो deliberately उसको छुपाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं और कुछ नए टॉपिक्स ला रहे हैं.
So if one was to like approach this field the way you are approaching, other than choosing and selecting subject and studying it,
Yeah.
what are rest of the ways or like rest of the things that maybe you've done correctly or done wrongly? Like these people can also become therapists of whatever way they want to become.
I think a formal education is very, very important, Samir. You can't go without getting degrees.
As you said, there were some people who does this without.
They do that. अब देखो यार.
But how is that even
पता नहीं
allowed?
चलता है ना, नहीं पता चलता है. There is no regulatory board in India. RCI है, which is called the Rehabilitation Council of India. They provide you with a license to practice, but that is mostly for clinical psychology. People who deal with disorders, right? I told you clinical psychology क्या होता है. उसके लिए there is a regulatory body where people can get into rehabilitation, where they deal with addiction and all of those things. But for counseling, ऐसा कोई लाइसेंस ही नहीं है. ऐसी कोई रेगुलेटरी बॉडी ही नहीं है इंडिया में, पूरे इंडिया में, जो रेगुलेट करे if this is a certified therapist, if they have a license, if they have a degree, if they have a formal education and training to practice or not. You won't believe, I've met so many people, they started doing this out of goodwill in COVID. They're charging more than me, even though I have years of experience and a formal education and years of training. They are charging more than me and they are just like, I think they're doing more harm than good.
I can imagine one चाचा जी of my
Yeah.
family member or a मौसा जी who just like बेटा यार तू देख ये सब मत कर मैं तेरे को बताता हूँ.
तू क्या करना? वो होता ही नहीं है. हम एडवाइस देते ही नहीं है. In therapy, you don't give advice. You don't give solutions. The main motto is to let the person reach a level of insight by themselves. Insight is, एक होता है ना ऐसे इमेजिन कर बल्ब है, बल्ब जल गया एकदम से टिंग. That is very basic how you can describe it. Insight where you realize things by your own self. That's the key. आज अगर जो चीज़ मैंने तुम्हें सिखाई है, ठीक है, लेकिन जब तक मैंने सिखा तो दी, लेकिन जब तक तुम खुद उसको करोगे नहीं, तब तक तुम्हें पता ही नहीं चलेगा कि उसका महत्व क्या है, उसकी वैल्यू क्या है, राइट? सो आई कैन स्टिल से कि ओके मे बी दिस यू शुड डू दिस, से दैट, बट वो उसको इतना इम्पैक्ट ही नहीं करेगा. What we try to do in therapy is we try to mold things in such a way, mold the conversations in such a way, and we've been trained to do that, to pick on the right things. Like I said, not everything they say is relevant to us.
Mm-hmm.
I pick on the right thing that will give me a window to dive more deeper, understand more deeply, and that will allow that person to open up. When they open up more, then we dive a little more deeper. There are the right kind of questions that are supposed to be asked. It's all about asking the right questions. All about that.
What? Like to play devil's advocate over here. I'm on your side. बट लाइक अगर सोचना भी मेरे को ही दिमाग की बत्ती जलानी है ना, तो मैं तेरे पास क्यों आऊँ? देयर आर पीपल लाइक दिस वर लाइक ओ हमको तो करना है ये काम, सेल्फ एक्चुअलाइजेशन ही तो है, बट लाइक
पहुंचोगे कैसे वहां तक?
So,
ये बताओ, तुम
exactly.
पहुंचोगे कैसे वहां तक? तुम कर लो, ठीक है कर लो, पहुंचोगे कैसे?
So if you wanna please be that कि how are you making sure that कि तुमको वो चीज़ें नहीं आती है, how is your role important in being there? कि ऐसा नहीं कि तुम घर बैठ के ये अकेले बैठ के दिमाग में सोचते सोचते चीज़ें कर सकते हो. Probably कर सकते हो, you might be like a 1 or 2% kind of a capable person, well read, but सब लोग नहीं कर पाएंगे.
नहीं कर सकते, मैं खुद नहीं कर सकती.
ठीक है, बेनिफिट ऑफ डाउट, ठीक है, कमेंट्स के लिए मैंने दे दिया कि चल 1-2% रख लो तुम.
कर लो, ठीक है,
उसके बाद भी बच रहा है.
डिल्यूशन के लिए, क्योंकि
हाँ.
मैं तो खुद थेरेपिस्ट हूँ, मैं नहीं कर सकती. आप नहीं कर सकते यार, आप खुद की सर्जरी कर सकते हो?
नहीं.
नहीं ना. सिमिलरली यू कांट, बिकॉज देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ बायस इन्वॉल्व्ड. ओके, इवन दो आई मे ट्राई कि मैं कर लूँ, कि मैं सब फिगर आउट कर रही हूँ, मेरा कहीं ना कहीं पर्सनल बायस आएगा. मैं क्यों देखूंगी मेरी गलती? और मैं देख भी लूँ कि चल शायद मेरी गलती थी, हाउ कैन आई अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम द रूट ऑफ वेयर इज दिस मिस्टेक कमिंग फ्रॉम? How can I resolve this from a perspective where next time I'm into it, I instantly know? Lot of times awareness comes in. ठीक है, अवेयरनेस आ जाती है बहुत लोगों में कि ओके मैं ये करती हूँ या मैं ये करता हूँ, मैं ऐसी हूँ, मैं ऐसा हूँ. अवेयरनेस के बाद क्या?
Where does it roots from?
Yeah, you need to understand that आप अगर ऐसे हो तो आप ऐसे क्यों हो, ये कहाँ से आ रहा है, और कैसे इस चीज़ पे काम किया जा सकता है. ये आप अकेले नहीं कर पाते. यू कैन रीच द अवेयरनेस दैट ओके दिस इज हु आई एम, दिस इज व्हाट आई डू, दिस इज व्हाट आई लाइक अबाउट माई सेल्फ, दिस इज व्हाट आई डोंट लाइक अबाउट माई सेल्फ. ये मेरी अच्छी चीज़ें हैं, ये मेरी बुरी चीज़ें हैं, ये सब चीज़ें आप अवेयरनेस पे आ सकते हो. लेकिन अवेयरनेस इज जस्ट द फर्स्ट स्टेप. Working on that constantly is something that you might need an assistance with. ऐसे भी नहीं है कि चाहिए. Okay, like you said, someone who's aware, okay, I may be able to do that better than you because I have that knowledge. Just saying कि मेरे पास तो पूरी knowledge है, right? तो मैं शायद फिर भी आपसे better कर सकती हूँ वो चीज़. But तो भी बहुत बार मेरे biases आएंगे बीच में. और जब आप सुनते हो ना किसी और से, तो उस चीज़ का पावर ज़्यादा होता है rather than just saying that to yourself, because a lot of times I may say something to myself and not follow through with it. What happens there is a break of trust. Now I no more trust myself. क्यों? क्योंकि मैंने बोला कि मैं ये करूँगी, लेकिन मैंने नहीं किया. और ये अगर 50 बार रिपीट हो गया ना कि मैंने खुद को बोला मैं करूँगी और नहीं किया, स्मॉलेस्ट ऑफ थिंग्स, कि अब मैं आज जिम जाऊँगी, मैं नहीं गई. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट डे मैंने बोला यार मैं 3 लीटर पानी पीऊँगी, मैं नहीं पिया. बोला आज मैं सुबह 6 बजे उठूँगी, मैं नहीं उठी. आज मैं खुद के लिए सैलेड बनाऊँगी, मैं नहीं बनाया. 5 एक्सपीरियंसेस मैंने आपको ऐसे ही बता दिए. एवरी डे में बहुत ऐसी चीज़ें होती हैं जो हम शायद खुद को बोलते हैं बट हम नहीं कर पाते हैं. फॉर XYZ रीजन्स, whatever reasons, हम नहीं कर पाते हैं. इससे there is a gap now where my mind is not trusting myself anymore. ये तो बोलती करती नहीं है, मेरे को नहीं मानना. So even if at that point with my awareness I can recognize that this is something that I need to work on, I say to myself, Prachi, this is what you'll do. और इससे समीर अपन नहीं करेंगे बात से, इससे अपन अपनी इस चीज़ पे काम करेंगे. से अब मैं रूड हो जाती हूँ गुस्से में. ठीक है, अब मुझे रूड नहीं होना है. प्राची तू रूड नहीं होगी अब तू कोशिश कर कि तेरे को कोई कुछ बोलेगा तो तू शांत हो जाएगी. पर इतनी गैप है ट्रस्टिंग में, मैं शांत होंगी ही नहीं.
वो पैटर्न बन चुका है ट्रस्ट नहीं करने का.
बन चुका है. So then when someone else comes in and they show you something it hits you. And then you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I think let me try and use this technique. Let me do it this way. Maybe that helps. लोग ऐसे कई बार कहते हैं कि यार आपकी बात याद आई थी मुझे, जब मैं उस सिचुएशन में थी ना, फिर प्राची जो आपने कहा था ना वो याद आया और फिर मैंने खुद को बाहर निकाला वहाँ से और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा. So, that's where a therapist can play a role. Where मैं उसको बता नहीं रही हूँ क्या करना है, वो उसकी सिचुएशन वही है, उसकी लाइफ है, वो शायद उस सिचुएशन में बार बार आएगा आने वाले टाइम में भी. बट हम एक ऐसा मतलब होता है ना, आर्मी तैयार कर देते हैं of strategies, of like there is this sena that is ready where of coping mechanisms, of every kind of mechanism that you need, where now next time you're faced with that situation, which armor to take out, and you use that armor in that situation and you're out of it. So to even recognize what are some of my strengths, I need someone else to show them to me. Because I've developed this pattern of not trusting myself or not believing myself.
If someone was to like reverse it, like on a lower scale at least, where say drinking water and like maybe like journaling or reading for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, if there's small habits, if they want to like reverse it, what would be the thing of like, okay, abhi trust nahi karta hai, maine pattern itna kar rakha hai. What could be like small things they could do to like start that thing again if they could actually do it?
They can. I think setting realistic goals for yourself is very important. It has to be realistic and achievable. जैसे अब मैंने सोच लिया कि मैं लेट्स से रीडिंग फॉर 10 मिनट्स, ठीक है, मैं सोचा आई विल रीड एवरी डे फॉर 10 मिनट्स ना. 10 मिनट्स अगर मेरा टेंशन, जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे कि अटेंशन स्पैन काफ़ी कम हो गया है रील्स की वजह से, मुझे पता है कि मेरा अटेंशन स्पैन नहीं है 8 मिनट से ज़्यादा या 10 मिनट से ज़्यादा चला. एंड इफ आई सेट माई गोल एज मैं आधा घंटा रोज़ पढ़ूंगी, वो नहीं होगा. लेकिन अगर मैं स्टार्ट करूँ कि मैं रोज़ रात को सोने से पहले, इम्पॉर्टेंट क्या है, 10 मिनट, 20 मिनट, आधा घंटा या रीडिंग, क्या इम्पॉर्टेंट है बताओ? रीडिंग इम्पॉर्टेंट है, राइट? सो द गोल कैन बी सेट इन सच अ वे दैट आई विल रीड बिफोर गोइंग टू बेड.
Okay.
I will read every day before going to bed and show up for it. Does not matter तुमने एक पेज पढ़ा, 4 लाइन पढ़ी, 10 लाइन पढ़ी, 10 पेज पढ़े, does not matter. तुमने पढ़ा ना, ठीक है.
It reminds me of again a sentence a teacher of mine said, like just show up to your practice.
Yes.
Things will just fall into place.
Yes.
Just showing up sometimes is the biggest thing you can do.
Best thing you can do. Exactly. So setting up very realistic standards for yourself slowly helps build these habits.
How do you manage your own stuff you are going through? Like how, if I could, like how much clients do you have in your hand right now? In terms of like weekly interaction, if you have to say.
On an everyday basis, I have say 2 to 3 sessions every day. And there are new clients also that keep coming up. A lot of my old clients are there as well.
एक दिन की छुट्टी भी मान लो तो 6 2s are 12. You are talking to 12 people a
Not
day.
people necessarily, because sessions keep repeating. Like I said, you meet one person once a week. तो पुराने क्लाइंट्स भी काफ़ी कंटिन्यू करते हैं. जैसे अभी हैं बहुत लोग जिनके हो गए 30-40 सेशन भी हो गए हैं, चलता जा रहा है. कोई अपने 12-13 सेशन पे है, कोई सेकंड सेशन पे है. ऐसे हर क्लाइंट की अलग अलग प्रोग्रेस एंड जर्नी चलती रहती है. बट ऑन एन एवरेज आई टेक 2 sessions to 2 to 3 sessions in a day.
How are you managing your own things?
It does get tough sometimes, I'll be very honest, because I need to channelize my energy. And sometimes I'm not able to do that. So it does take a toll on me. But I think with practice it comes more. So this is my 3rd year, right? And isme bhi matlab, before this I had a team and we all used to do peer counseling. So अगर हम ले भी रहे हैं बहुत सारे clients, we had this support system. I have been an independent practitioner for a year now. So I'm independent now. Like I do have my friends, of course, like my psychologist friends who I can reach out to and we can do peer counseling. But हर बार नहीं कर सकते.
What was the difference in you working alone and you working with like a firm or maybe a collective of people who are doing this?
It helps. See, working with a collective of people helps you to take care of your own mental health. Where, like I said, we had these weekly sessions, okay? They were called peer counseling or peer review. तो उसमें हम क्या करते थे, जैसे अगर हम 10 साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं तो हम 10 साइकोलॉजिस्ट बैठ रहे हैं और हमारी मीटिंग हो रही है हर हफ्ते, जिसमें हम अगर मैं कहीं चल किसी केस में अटकी हुई हूँ या अगर बहुत हैवी सेशन था मेरा, तो वी डिस्कस दैट कि यार this client that I had, we won't tell identifiers meaning the
Specifications.
age. Yes, the specifications we don't use, but हम case to case बात करते हैं. जैसे अगर कोई relationship का case चल रहा था, I'd be like, oh, that relationship case that I had, now this is where the client is, and this is where I feel stuck. Or it was such a heavy session, this is what happened, this is what they said. Someone spoke about suicide, so I'm going to be like, yeah, they mentioned about these attempts that they had, and I'm thinking that I'm going to do safety planning with them. Then I'm thinking that this is the next step I'll take. So with peer review, what happens is that we help each other out as well, or we can empathize with each other.
It's like someone next to you in your journey kind of could help you in a certain way.
Yes, to if you are feeling stuck somewhere, sometimes you can feel stuck with the client कि यार मैंने सारी techniques apply कर ली. जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था, CBT is very common. There is another approach known as REBT, which is rational emotive behavior therapy, which is similar to along the lines of CBT, but इसमें emotions का भी काफ़ी role रहता है. Focus a lot on the emotional aspect of it. Then there is psychodynamic. It focuses on how you focus and tap on the childhood memories. Then there is trauma focused therapy, which focuses on picking out the traumas, resolving the trauma. So you don't really focus on अभी क्या चल रहा है या उसकी thinking क्या है, नहीं. Trauma focused होता है. आप सिर्फ ट्रॉमेटिक इवेंट्स को डिस्कस करते हो, उनके बारे में बात करते हो, उनको सिर्फ नहीं, बट हाँ, मेजर फोकस इज देयर. देन देर आर डिफरेंट अप्रोचेज. देयर इज एग्जिस्टेंशियल, देयर इज जेस्टोरल, देयर इज ह्यूमनिस्टिक. तो हम एज अ थेरेपिस्ट हम ऑलरेडी प्रिपेयर होके बैठते हैं कि यार अभी मुझे ये एड्रेस करना है आज,
ट्राई करना
हाँ,
है,
और मेरे को इसके साथ ये टेक्निक ट्राई करनी है. सबकी पर्सनालिटीज़ भी अलग अलग होती हैं, तो हर पर्सनालिटी के बेसिस पे ये फर्क पड़ता है कि
so it's like a proper case study. You do
Yeah.
the stuff and then you go back, you see what happened, revisit, and then prepare for the next one.
yes. And then you see कि यार इसके साथ ना ये टेक्निक काम नहीं करी, तो मे बी इसके साथ ये काम कर सकती है. So then you try that approach, and उसमें peer review helps a lot. लेकिन जब आप अकेले होते हो ना, तो अब एक तो I can't share anything with anyone around me.
Confidentialities
I
and
can't share
everything.
anything with anyone around me. Max to max, what I can say is, I had a heavy day, or it was a very tiring session, something like that. तो वो आउटलेट बहुत अच्छा मिल जाता है जब आप peer review करते हो या peer counseling करते हो. जब आप अकेले रहते हो, आपको वो सोर्सेज ढूंढने पड़ते हैं खुद की टेक केयर करने के लिए. उस एनर्जी को जो आपने शायद accumulate करी है ड्यूरिंग द सेशन, आप कहाँ रिलीज कर रहे हो उसको. बिकॉज आई एम अ टोटल बिलीवर ऑफ एनर्जीज, राइट. आई थिंक एवरीथिंग इज एनर्जी. सो येस, देर इज an outlet that they look into us. Sometimes people just dump their things and they leave. So taking care of myself becomes very very important there. कभी कभी नहीं हो पाता है, but then I push myself. I also take therapy. In fact, at this point, I am in therapy. I had just had my session yesterday.
So if a therapist has to take a therapy, it is the same procedure, or do you just like, if you know some peer of yours, you be like, hey, I'd like to get in or something like that. How do you approach that?
With peers, it still does not happen. With friends and family, therapy does not work well.
So you try that there is this person who doesn't know me, doesn't have
another
anything.
therapist, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I work on my mental health as well, constantly, where if I can see कि अब मेरे साथ साइंस ये हो जाते हैं कि then if I'm not okay ना, I will ignore my clients because I don't have the energy, so I will not respond them back, or I will not call them back. And when I see this pattern happening ना, I'm like, नहीं, I need to get myself back into my energy. I need to get myself back into that space. So I take a few sessions. I take that load out. I'll just discuss everything with her, and then I'm back again. I'll be like, okay, I'm feel ready again. I can take on sessions.
Any parting notes you would like to?
No, I think I'm so glad that there is an awareness about this now. People are wanting to know more about this approach. People are wanting to understand therapy better. And I have my own mental health organization by the name of All That Matters. I try to spread awareness about all of these things, and I want to help as many people as I can with the knowledge that I have. And it's very important to address these issues. Very, very important. So glad that you spoke about this. All That Matters is, like I said, another initiative where I want to hold more such conversations, where I want people to open up and really also have this sharing circle known as Dil Khol, where I really want people to come and like open their hearts. Right? Just come and speak about what's going on with you. Really talk about things that matter. Right? That's where the name comes from. All that matters, because we miss out on talking about things that really matter in life. So I'm glad this happened. I'm glad we're talking about things that matter, things that are really picking up now. I think 5 years down the line, even the people who are so against therapy, like I can see people around me also, my friends sometimes, they're so against it, standing up for it.
Sorry to be like that, but like, how do you mean like against it? Like, how can someone be against? I could be not accepting towards going to therapy, but I won't be against it. I won't be like, hey, Prachi di, you don't need to go to therapy. Everything is fine with you. Just wake up at 6 p.m., start jogging. There is no such thing. Like, how does that looks like?
Yeah, people are so ignorant. They'll be like, ऐसा कुछ होता ही नहीं है. To my face, they say,
It
ऐसे तो
reminds me of a meme. दो बेल्ट मार के बच्चे की मेंटल हेल्थ सुधार दी.
so they say to my face कि ये तो कुछ नहीं होता है. करते क्या तुम, बातें तो करते हो, मैं कर लेता हूँ बातें. तू कर ले बातें जा.
So this is not a funny banter that you are going through with a friend. This is an actual
this-
conversation.
Yeah, and then when I get serious, then they're like, अरे serious क्या हो रही है यार? अरे हम तो मजाक कर रहे हैं यार. तुम नहीं कर रहे हो मजाक. You are just completely dismissing my whole profession. So there are people who are against it.
More than profession, I'd like be like the people who are going through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. The suffering might not be like, I cannot relate to the suffering of
Yeah.
someone who's depressed.
Yeah.
But like, pretty possible. If I could be sad, someone could be depressed.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, thank you so much for doing this. All That Matters and Prachi Bhatia. सारी डिटेल्स अकाउंट्स की सब चीज़ की डिस्क्रिप्शन में है. इफ़ यू वांट प्लीज have a therapy session, she's available. You can contact her. We're going to be doing this very frequently, so just write down what would you like to know. And yeah, I would be back with better things, even better stuff. So watch out, like, comment, share. Bye bye. Thank you.